Hi, my name's Nick Osborne, aka the Coffee Detective, and today we're just going to look at making a cup of coffee in a French press, also known as a press pot. Now they come in various different sizes. This is like a 4-cup size. This actually isn't my favorite model. I actually prefer them. You see the little steel band here. Many of them have verticals here and some little feet, because I get nervous that I might actually break the glass there, which in fact is what I did with my last one. So this is a replacement, but it's not quite the one I wanted. They come in different forms and models and manufacturers, but they all have this vertical glass beaker, and all of them have this steel mesh here. You can undo this part and clean all the separate elements in here. But basically you don't use a paper filter with a French press. It's just this metal sieve here. Well, it's pretty fine. And the principle is you just put the coffee grinds in here, you put the hot water in here, and then after a few minutes you just press this down and it separates the coffee at the bottom, leaving coffee grinds at the bottom, leaving the liquid coffee at the top. This is a remarkably simple way to make coffee, and the strange thing is, I believe this cost me $12. You can go out and you can spend a couple of $100 on a fancy coffee maker, but actually this will make coffee just as good. If you go to if there's a coffee store near you where they do tastings and things, you have a look at how they make their coffee. A lot of them, for tasting, use a French press, because it's just such a clean, simple, and basically good way to make coffee. And that's the weird thing about coffee making, is there are so many different types of coffee maker, but actually one of the very simplest is also one of the best. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make coffee here. Here's my coffee mug. This is about an 8 ounce size. So I can get about 4 of these out of this coffee pot. So let's say I'm going to make 4. What I do first is I remove this, get my coffee, and I put in 4 heaped coffee scoops. And a coffee scoop is the same as 2 level tablespoons of ground coffee. I'm going to put that in. Now actually I'm going to cheat. I'm going to put a little extra in because I like my coffee quite strong. And that's something to keep in mind, is that there are various rules and guidelines in terms of how much coffee you put in according to how much hot water you put in, but ultimately just figure out what's best for your taste. Start off with the recommended amount and then change it according to what you like best. So one thing to mention about the coffee is that this is a coarse grind. So you don't want to use an espresso grind, which is very fine, and a medium grind, which you use for a drip brewer, you can probably get away with, but really you're going to do best if you use a coarse grind. Now when you go to the store, sometimes on the bags of coffee it'll say coarse, medium, fine on the bag itself. Or at other stores you can go there and they have these dispensers with whole beans, and they actually have a grinder as part of the dispenser display there. If that's the case, you just pour your coffee beans in the top, and you turn that steel knob, I believe it's probably to the left, basically to coarse. Alright, and that's the right kind of grind for this. Now I just boiled this water here before we started, so I can just pour this in now, and you just pour it on top of the coffee grinds, and I'm going to pour up to just under this level, which is going to give me 4 cups of coffee. Now I'm not immediately going to put the sieve on. I'm just going to let it sit for a moment, and then I'm going to take a spoon and I'm going to just give it a gentle stir. You don't have to go crazy, just stir it a little. And that makes sure that all of every individual coffee grind in there, all the surfaces are exposed to the hot water. Now I'm going to put this on top because I worry about the heat getting out the top. And there is a front and a back here. You can see here there's almost like a little plastic sieve. so that if any coffee grinds do get loose, when you pour, the idea is it's captured by that. Now, you don't plunge it straight away. You want to wait for probably about 3 minutes. So we're going to just wait a little bit while that brews in there. If you leave it, if I pushed it right down now, I'd get a pretty weak brew. If I left it there for 10 minutes, it would cool off a bit, but also it would start to get a little bit of a bitter taste. 3 minutes is the magic time for when you're using a press pot. About the water, when you put the water in, you notice that I had the kettle sitting there for a couple of minutes before I poured it. The best water temperature here is 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, when you boil water, it's a little higher than that. So there's a couple of things you can do. One, if you really have a good ear for when your kettle is coming to the boiling point, take it off the heat about 30 seconds before it reaches boiling point. If you can't, and I can't, what I do is I just wait for the water to boil, and then I put the kettle aside and just let it rest for just 2 or 3, a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, and it just lets it settle down a little bit from boiling. You don't want to scald the coffee, but you want the water hot enough to draw out the flavor. So now we're going to press this, and what's happening is this central stem is basically pushing the coffee grinds down to the bottom and leaving the coffee at the top. Just kind of nice and steady. Alright, now it's all the way down, and you're done. And the coffee is ready to pour. So you can see we've got a nice rich brew there. It's going to be perfect. And that's it. Very simple device, very good coffee.